Hello, welcome back to the Breaking News Update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a very big lineup of news that I'd like to brief you all on today. So today's date is April 26, 2025, and it's Saturday. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend so far. We've got a lot of news to get into in today's video. And we're going to start this video off talking about Russia as they're claiming that they have completely liberated the Kursk region, which is the area that Ukraine opened up an offensive and an incursion into Russian territory back in August. And as far as we know, Ukraine is still operating over there. But the Russians are coming out today and claiming they have fully liberated it just a couple weeks prior to May 9th, where we're going to have a Victory Day being celebrated inside of Russia. So it makes you wonder if that's the reason why they're stating this. You guys can let me know what you think. But we'll start off with this story here on your screen. Russia claims to have fully liberated Kursk region with North Korea's help. Vladimir Putin has claimed that his country has regained control of Kursk, the border region where Ukraine launched a surprise offensive last year, though Ukraine's army says fighting continues. Yeah, so the General Staff of Ukraine responded to this and said, no, that's not true. We are still operating over there. They even released a map to show how much territory they're currently controlling. I could show you guys that here in just a minute. And the part here that talks about North Korea's help. So Vladimir Putin doesn't state this, but Valery Gerasimov, the chief of general staff of Russia's armed forces, claimed this. He said that for the very first time in a rare statement, Russia is confirming that the DPRK, or the North Korean army, has actually helped out in this fight. Now, we heard several times months back that the Russians were really trying to hide the fact that North Korean soldiers were fighting Ukraine, especially in the Kursk region. A lot of times, what we heard is the Russians would burn the faces of the North Korean soldiers or try to burn their bodies to kind of eliminate any evidence of the North Koreans fighting over there. So we're going to talk more about that today. We also have reports coming out from Rome, Italy. We had the funeral today for Pope Francis at the Vatican in Rome, Italy. And we're going to discuss that because Trump and Zelenskyy actually held a meeting over there. Zelenskyy also met with Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, and also Emmanuel Macron, the French president. He met with Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU Commission. So we're going to talk about all that today, guys. Lots of news to cover. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. We're going to jump on over here to X with War Translated. Putin claimed full control over Kursk region, congratulating his cannon fodder and remnants of North Korean imports for crushing imaginary neo-Nazis. Okay, so go ahead and take a look at this clip, guys. About 1 minute long. It will have subtitles at the bottom of the screen.
Поздравляю весь личный состав всех воинских подразделений, принимавших участие в разгроме неонацистских формирований, вторгшихся на российскую территорию в Курской области. Авантюра киевского режима полностью провалилась, а понесенные противником огромные потери, в том числе и среди наиболее боеспособных, подготовленных и оснащенных, в том числе и западными образцами техники силами ВСО, а это штурмовые подразделения, спецназ, безусловно, отразятся на всей линии боевого соприкосновения. Полный разгром противника в Курском приграничье создает условия для дальнейших успешных действий наших войск и на других важнейших участках фронта, приближает разгром неонацистского режима.
Okay, so we can see Vladimir Putin here holding this meeting with Valery Gerasimov, the chief of general staff of Russia's armed forces, and clearly stating here that Russia has defeated Ukraine inside the Kursk region and completely liberated it. Now, you guys can let me know whether you think that's true or not, whether you believe that. But Ukraine's coming out today and refuting that, stating that they are actually still over there fighting against Russia. Here's another report from Anton Gerashenko. Gerasimov officially thanked DPRK servicemen for their help in liberating the Kursk region. As a reminder earlier, Russia denied their presence on Russian territory in every possible way. Obviously, without the help of heroic North Koreans, the Russians could not show results. It is interesting that after the mass elimination of DPRK units in the Kursk region, no new arrivals of cannon fodder from DPRK were noticed. Ukrainian General Staff denied Russia's claims and stated that the Ukrainian defense operation in Kursk region of Russia continues. So I just want to note this real quick. So talking about how there was no new arrivals of DPRK soldiers, that we did hear at one point that another 2 or 3,000 or so was deployed from North Korea over to Russia once again. But we never heard any significant information talking about an increase in North Korean troops in the area after we started to hear that a lot of them were being eliminated in the Kursk region. So it makes you wonder here if maybe what North Korea did was just send a batch of soldiers over to Russia to kind of get some training. So that way they can bring this training on modern warfare back to their own country. And they probably weren't really planning to get heavily involved here, is what I'm thinking. But as far as we know, the North Korean soldiers still are fighting on behalf of Russia over there. But I want to show you guys this clip real quick. So Valery Gerasimov is going to completely admit that DPRK soldiers have been fighting against Ukraine in the Kursk region. Take a look.
Отдельно хочу отметить участие в освобождении приграничных районов Курской области военнослужащих Корейской Народно-Демократической Республики, которые в соответствии с договором о всеобъемлющем стратегическом партнерстве между нашими странами оказали значительную помощь в разгроме вклинившейся группировки вооруженных сил Украины. Солдаты и офицеры Корейской народной армии, выполняя боевые задачи плечом к плечу с российскими военнослужащими, в ходе отражения украинского вторжения показали высокий профессионализм, проявили в бою стойкость, мужество и героизм. Отдельно хочу отметить.
All right, so it makes you wonder why Russia is now coming out and admitting this, as so many times before there was many claims that North Koreans were fighting for Russia, especially inside the Kursk region. There was even that time where 2 North Korean soldiers were captured by Ukraine's military. So yeah, very strange that all of a sudden they're now coming out and admitting that. You guys let me know what you think, why Russia would be doing that now, and why they didn't do this, previously months ago. Now from Ukraine front line, the Ukrainian armed forces continue their operation in the Kursk region. The Kremlin statements do not correspond to reality, says the general staff. There is no threat of encirclement of units. So this is the map that's being spread around right now on X, showing the territory that Ukraine is currently operating in inside the Kursk region. So you can see here this blue area on the border. They've still got a significant amount of land over here. Now, not nearly as much as before, but Ukraine is still inside of Russia. They're not completely pushed out yet, at least according to their general staff. So why would Russia be claiming this now? Okay, I think it has a lot to do with the Victory Day parade coming up very soon. I think Russia wants to be able to state that they have completely pushed Ukraine out, even if Ukraine still has a small sliver of land. The last time we had an update for you guys, we heard that Ukraine was pushed out like 98% of the way, I think is what Russia was saying. Now all of a sudden they're stating now that they have completely pushed Ukraine out of the Kursk region. Now we'll move on to the talks between Trump and Zelenskyy. So here's from Volodymyr Zelenskyy on X, the president of Ukraine. Good meeting. We discussed a lot one-on-one, hoping for results on everything we covered, protecting lives of our people, full and unconditional ceasefire, reliable and lasting peace that will prevent another war from breaking out. Very symbolic meeting that has potential to become historic if we achieve joint results. Thank you, President of the United States. Here's a photo coming out from Trump and Zelenskyy. And there was another video actually that was floating around that Macron was actually here as well, standing with Zelenskyy and Trump. And they eventually put up 3 chairs. So I was wondering if Macron was supposed to hold a meeting with Zelenskyy, but there was a point where Trump was actually talking to Macron, and it looks like maybe he was trying to tell him, hey, I just want to hold a one-on-one with Zelenskyy. So they ended up just kind of having a one-on-one here together, you can see. And they discussed numerous things. We don't know all the details yet, but they did hold a meeting. And according to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, it was a good meeting. And this is actually the first time they've met face-to-face here ever since that horrible debacle that happened in the White House, where they got into a shouting match and a heating argument. And Zelenskyy eventually left the White House and, from what we heard, was actually kicked out. So now for Max 24, Trump and Zelenskyy agreed to hold further talks after the funeral ceremony in the Vatican, says Sky News. So Sky News reporting today that Trump and Zelenskyy might be holding more meetings here in the near future, which is good news. And that means that the talks went well if they're agreeing to hold further talks in the future. So that's very good news. We should be hearing more information on that soon. Now for Military News UA, most points of the peace agreement have been agreed upon. Ukraine and Russia should meet at a very high level. to end the war, Trump said. So this was a statement from Trump as he just got there to the Vatican in Rome, and he posted here on True Social, just landed in Rome. A good day in talks and meetings with Russia and Ukraine. They are very close to a deal, and the two sides should now meet at very high levels to finish it off. Most of the major points are agreed to. Stop the bloodshed now. We will be wherever is necessary to help facilitate the end to this cruel and senseless war. So we're starting to hear more and more positive news coming out, and it's making me more optimistic that maybe this war will come to an end. Now, we don't know for sure. It could completely just go south, and maybe this war will continue on, but we are hearing more and more positive news, not just from Trump, but also from Ukrainian President Zelensky, and surprisingly, even a little bit from Russia. I've got more news on that today as well. Russia appears more open to discussing talks as well. So now, we have to wait for actual action coming from the Kremlin, not necessarily just statements. But they are coming out very positively recently and talking about the fact that they are ready and open to talks with Ukraine. So now from Bliskovka, Trump has already left Italy. The meeting with Zelensky was not continued, but they managed to discuss the main thing, writes Spilnet. Okay, so what was that main thing? I'm wondering if it's maybe Crimea. We've been hearing recently that Crimea, the U.S. is proposing to hand that over to Russia, and Ukraine saying, no, we will not allow that to happen. That's a major part of the peace deal that pretty much just writes that thing off as it's not going to happen. If Ukraine does not agree to that, or if the U.S. does not give up the demands to recognize Crimea as Russian territory. So I'm wondering if that's probably a large part of it, but it could have been something else as well. You guys let me know what you think down in the comment section on that. Now for Bliskovka again, Putin had no reason to fire missiles at civilian areas, cities, and towns over the past few days, says Trump. This makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just lying to me, and he should be treated differently through banking operations or secondary sanctions, writes the U.S. president. Yeah, you heard that right. That's Trump, probably for the very first time, speaking the most aggressively to Vladimir Putin that I've ever seen. I want to show you guys this post. This actually came out today, and Trump allegedly wrote this as he was leaving from Rome today. So he posted here on True Social, no matter what deal I make with respect to Russia and Ukraine, no matter how good it is, even if the greatest deal ever made, if it's the greatest deal ever made, the failing New York Times will speak badly of it. Little Peter Baker, the very biased and untalented writer for the Times, followed his editor's demands and wrote that Ukraine should get back territory, including, I suppose, Crimea, and other ridiculous requests in order to stop the killing that is worse than anything since World War II. Why doesn't this lightweight reporter say that it was Obama who made it possible for Russia to steal Crimea and Ukraine without even a shot being fired? It was also little Peter who wrote an absolutely fawning yet terribly written biography on Obama. It was a joke. Did Baker ever criticize the Obama Crimea giveaway? No, not once, only Trump, and I've got nothing to do with this stupid war other than early on when I gave Ukraine javelins and Obama gave them sheets. This is sleepy Joe Biden's war, not mine. It was a loser from day one, should have never happened, and wouldn't have happened if I were president at the time. I'm just trying to clean up the mess that was left to me by Obama and Biden, and what a mess it is. With all that being said, there was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas. So he's talking about Kiev that got attacked just 2 nights ago, the capital of Ukraine. Cities and towns over the last few days, it makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently through banking or secondary sanctions. Too many people are dying, okay? So finally, Trump coming out and hinting that maybe could we see banking sanctions, secondary sanctions being put onto Russia that could heavily force them to end this war. Maybe that's why Russia's coming out today even more and stating that they're open to discussions on talks with Ukraine. Now, I'll show you guys that information in a minute, but this has to be the very first time that I have seen personally Trump speaking this way towards Vladimir Putin. So you guys can let me know what you think. Do you think it's all show or just play here? Obviously actions speak louder than words. So let's wait to see if Trump makes some actions here and actually does start slamming Russia with sanctions. If we start to see that Russia's really not serious about any of this war. So crazy statement today. Now from War Monitor, history is what he says. So this was a picture of Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine. We've got Trump there, the U.S. president. We've got Keir Starmer right there. the UK Prime Minister, and then the President of France, Emmanuel Macron. So you can see they all got together here. They were discussing something. Just another photo coming out today on these talks in Rome. Now from Liskovka, Zelensky met with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. They discussed in particular the results of the meeting with Trump, writes the Spilny. The president also has a meeting scheduled with Italian Prime Minister Meloni and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Okay, so quick clip, 30 seconds coming out from Zelensky. Now, it will be very low. I've got it turned up as high as I can because Zelensky's not too close to the microphone. But the reporter's going to ask him, how did your talks go with Trump? He's basically going to state that they went really well, but he can't give too many details on it. Take a look.
Mr. President, how did the meeting with Trump goes?
We had we had productive meeting. I don't want to go to a lot of details if it's possible because the questions, very sensitive questions on, of course, totally it's about how to bring peace closer and how was resultative, positive Paris and London, and we want to continue such meetings to bring peace to Ukraine.
Mr. President, how
All right, so we can see here from Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, stating that, he can only give out so many details, but he knows that the meeting with Trump went very well. It's something that I have to highly note about Volodymyr Zelensky. He's always so respectful. Like, I don't think I've ever really seen him be disrespectful to people, even to reporters. He's even stating, if it's possible, I can't give out too much information. I'm sorry about that. So I always like to see that Zelensky's just always so professional for the most part and just very respectful to people. So just something to highly note about him based on a lot of the videos that I've seen coming out from him. Now from War Translated, Zelensky met one-on-one with Macron to discuss further peace efforts and commented on his Trump talks, calling it a good meeting. Okay, so here's a photo coming out from Emmanuel Macron here as well, and Volodymyr Zelensky as they were holding a meeting at the same time. Okay, so high-level talks being held over here in Rome with European leaders. Now from Savchenko, Vladimir, we've got some pictures coming out here. And he says, Zelensky, by the way, was greeted with applause at the Vatican. Okay, so these were pictures coming out from the Vatican today. We've got the Pope here inside his casket as they were holding this ceremony for his unfortunate passing recently. Here's a picture of Volodymyr Zelensky right here as well. And according to this information, once he showed up, he was being greeted by lots of applause. Okay, so that means that Europe really stands with him big time. Here's Donald Trump right here and Melania Trump, his wife, and there's Ursula von der Leyen as well. Okay, so he also met with her at the same time. I've got some information on that too. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky reported on X as well, farewell to Pope Francis and a special mass at St. Peter's Square. The unity of people from all parts of the world, gratitude to Pope Francis, prayers that strengthen and inspire hope. May the Lord hear every sincere heart today. Here's more pictures coming out from this ceremony today as well. You can see a lot of people were attending this. There's Volodymyr Zelensky right there and his wife. Here's some more pictures coming out from the Vatican. So very, very beautiful place is what it looks like to me. So there's another picture of the Pope there inside of his casket. So now we're going to move on to another update from Vicegrad 24. Italian soldiers protecting Pope Francis's funeral are equipped with anti-drone weapons. So this was a video coming out today. We'll kind of go back a little bit. But you can see they're holding anti-drone weapons here. And at some point, somebody's asking him, they're not speaking in English, but you can hear him say anti-drone. You can hear him pronouncing that. So it is an anti-drone weapon. You can see also they've got a spotter here. This guy's got some binoculars looking around in the skies to make sure there's no incoming drones. So interesting that they're so concerned about drones showing up over here. But something that we've been hearing lots of reports of inside of Europe is drones being spotted in the skies, okay, over sensitive installations, military installations, and all kinds of different places. So looks like they were concerned about drones entering into that area today. Now from Nexta, new Russian strikes and raids. In Kharkiv, a 14-year-old boy was injured during a night shelling from the Russian side. In Dnipro, during the night, explosions were heard in the city and 2 air alerts were declared, lasting nearly 6 hours in total. The city of Kropyvnytsky was subjected to a massive nighttime drone raid by Russian forces, with at least 10 explosions recorded. According to city authorities, administrative buildings and warehouses were damaged. Intense shelling continues in the Sumy region over the past day. There were 117 shelling incidents, according to the regional administration. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Russia carried out 117 airstrikes on Ukrainian military positions and settlements over the past probably 24 hours. What he probably left out here. So we got a couple videos we can show you guys of attacks happening inside of Ukraine last night, a few pictures as well. Let's start off with this first one here. Okay, my apologies, guys. This video was very loud. It was cranked up all the way. Whenever they put multiple videos like that, unfortunately, the sound gets cranked up at full blast right when you start the video. So I tried to turn it down for you guys, but it was a little late. It was a quick video. But we can see a massive explosion over here inside of Ukraine last night from an incoming drone. So we did have some attacks. I think about 114 drones entering into Ukraine last night. Here's another video coming up next. All right, so we can see much of this video is blurred out to protect these sites inside of Ukraine. That way the Russians don't adjust their strikes, but we can see a drone crashing over here. Not sure if it was brought down by electronic warfare, but definitely did crash inside of Ukraine last night. So we did have some hits being reported over here. We'll go on to move on to another update from the Ukrainian Review. And it says in Kamyansk, Dnipropetrovsk region, Shahid hit a 9-story residential building, killing a man, injuring an 11-year-old girl, and 3 women. Okay, so we had some reports of people being killed, unfortunately, last night, and also people being injured. We have some women and young kids injured in these strikes last night. Here's a couple photos coming out as well. So very sad, guys. More major hits inside of Ukraine, and innocent civilians losing their lives and being injured in these horrific attacks coming from the Russians with these drones. Okay, so very, very sad news to have to report there. Now for the Ukrainian Review, the moment of the morning strike by Shahid on a residential building in Bila Surfka, if I'm saying that correctly, near Kiev. Okay, so up near the capital of Ukraine, we had a drone completely crashing into somebody's home over here, at least very close by. It's going to land kind of in the middle of this settlement here, about 6 seconds long. Take a look at this. All right, so very frightening video footage here, guys. Someone was capturing this incoming drone, and look at that thing just dive bomb out of the sky and crash right in front of that home. And what was the significance of this target? Was this drone just brought down, or is this just Russia attacking more civilian areas? I mean, it looks like this drone was actually attacking this particular spot. I'm not sure why, if maybe there was Ukrainian soldiers there in the area, or if this is just Russia once again continuously attacking civilians, but it looks like it is targeting a civilian area here with all these homes. Now for Vicegrad24 breaking, a large number of Russian suicide drones are striking the Ukrainian city of Kropyvnytsky. The city has a population of 250,000. Okay, so this was coming out from last night inside of Ukraine as well. Just a quick 5-second clip. Take a look. All right, massive explosion over here in the city of Kropyvnytsky in Ukraine. So yeah, you guys, you can see here clearly a lot of drones striking inside of Ukraine last night, well over 100 being fired from the Russian side. I'll have those details for you here in just a moment. So now we'll jump on over to next. Putin signals willingness to negotiate with Ukraine, no strings attached. In a meeting with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed Russia's readiness to negotiate with Ukraine without preconditions, according to the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. So interesting, okay, without preconditions. And this would probably be one of the first times we've ever heard that. Now, if that happens to be the case, we'll see if it plays out that way. But Russia is allegedly open to discussing this war and talks with Ukraine without any kind of preconditions. So without stating, like, for example, well, we won't discuss anything until Ukraine pulls out of the 4 regions that we're holding. That includes Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson region inside of Ukraine. They'll typically do those kind of things. They'll say, we won't talk to Ukraine unless they do this, or unless Zelenskyy steps down and there becomes a new president over there or something like that. So apparently without preconditions, they are willing to discuss this. So I'm very curious to see how it's going to play out. So we are seeing Russia, at least verbally for right now, making some moves. Now we'll see if they actually do that with action leading behind it. Now, from Visioner, it became known that on April 15th, Ukrainians attacked Belbek, occupied Crimea, resulting in almost complete destruction of an S-400 type anti-aircraft battery, including its radar and several launchers. Okay, so this was being reported today, but this attack took place about 11 days ago. We had an S-400 type anti-aircraft battery that was completely destroyed. Okay, so an S-400 system. These are air defense systems down in, this would be in Crimea. Now, maybe this is near the Baalbek airfield, but Baalbek down in Crimea was reportedly attacked recently, and looks like it was completely destroyed. This is pictures coming out showing that evidence, okay? These things are very expensive, millions and millions of dollars, and completely destroyed there. So huge hit by Ukraine. Now from ASIN, reporter, there was a car bomb in Moscow this morning that killed a Russian general. Do you have any reaction to that? Trump says, who killed what? Reporter says, a Russian general killed by a car bomb. Trump responds, well, you're just telling me this for the first time. Where did this take place? Reporter says, it took place in Moscow. It was a Russian general. Trump responds, that's hitting close to home, right? That's a big one. I'll look at it. Okay, so I'd love to show you guys this video, but unfortunately the audio is just so low you can barely even hear anything. So this is basically the conversation here. So it was Trump being informed about the attack that happened yesterday inside of Russia, where we had that Russian general being killed near Moscow by a car bomb. And apparently Trump once again didn't know about this. And it's very interesting. So many times Trump comes out and says, well, I didn't know about that. You're the first person to tell me about this. And it makes you think, like, does nobody inform him about what's going on? I mean, the president of the United States doesn't have that information. I understand there's a lot of different things going on around the world. But it makes you wonder if maybe that's Trump's way of like trying to get away from explaining things or having to give some sort of explanation on a scenario or a situation that unfolds. And maybe he just kind of says that he didn't know about it, so that way he doesn't have to give any information. But we've been seeing Trump coming out a lot recently and stating that it was the first time he ever heard about something. And that was a pretty big story yesterday. So I'm kind of curious to see why he did not know about that. Now for Max 24, President Trump's plan to let Russia keep occupied territory in Ukraine is set in stone, according to the Times. Trump may meet Zelenskyy in Rome on Saturday, but he believes that the Ukrainian leader really has no choice but to sign up to the proposal, according to sources close to Witkoff. Trump is threatening to pull out of the peace process next week unless a deal is agreed. So this information actually came out yesterday, but I think it's important because it talks a lot about this peace plan. And here's the report. Trump planned to let Russia keep Ukraine land set in stone. Pressure builds on President Zelenskyy to accept a forced peace. So at least according to yesterday, could this change? Maybe, but according to yesterday, it looks like it's set in stone with the whole Crimea situation, Crimea being handed over to Russia, that will never change, that Zelenskyy has no choice but to accept this. Otherwise, the U.S. may completely pull out and maybe could withdraw their support for Ukraine, withdraw their intelligence for Ukraine, and put Ukraine in a very tough position. And could Ukraine start to lose more territory if they don't have the backing by the U.S.? Europe may not be enough support for them, may or may not be, I should say. So a huge report that broke yesterday. Just wanted to share that with you guys. We'll see if that changes, but that's what the Times was reporting yesterday. Now for Max 24, Washington has privately offered security guarantees to the coalition of the willing that London is calling for regarding Ukraine. According to the Telegraph, the Americans have opened the door to providing intelligence and logistical support to British and European soldiers on land, in the air, and at sea. The matter has not been decided regarding Washington's readiness to intervene if Western soldiers are attacked by Russia. So this was being reported yesterday as well, but there's lots of sources today talking about this also. So reportedly, the U.S. is privately giving security guarantees to the coalition of the willing. That's what the UK and France have been putting together. They've been trying to gather up a bunch of European nations and see who's willing to go into Ukraine, who's willing to send their forces over there if we get a ceasefire in this war and help ensure Ukraine's sovereignty. So apparently the Americans have given some secret security guarantees or private security guarantees for the coalition of the willing and letting them know that the U.S. might be involved in some sort of way. So I thought that was very big news today. Just want to give you guys information on that. Now from Bliskovka, Air Defense Forces of Ukraine destroyed 66 out of 114 Russian UAVs. 31 enemy imitator UAVs were lost locally without negative consequences. Here's your daily updates with the amount of drones being shot down. So 114 in total going into Ukraine, 66 shot down, 31 lost locally, probably to electronic warfare, but probably another 20 or 30 for sure hitting their targets, maybe more, and some of these crashing inside of Ukraine yesterday. Now, our final update of the day from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of April 26, according to the armed forces of Ukraine. Now, our final update here, guys. Russia's losses as of April 26, 1,110 troops, 5 AFVs, 145 vehicles and fuel tanks, 8 tanks, 70 artillery systems, 118 UAVs, and 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm seeing the same thing that we saw yesterday. Very low numbers on just about everything across the board. Even troop numbers a little bit lower than normal. The only numbers we've really been seeing that are kind of maintaining themselves is maybe these 3 right here. Vehicles and fuel tanks sitting at right about 150 on average a day. 8 tanks, we usually see somewhere between 5 and 10, I'd say, on average. And then these 70 artillery systems, usually about 40 to 60. Looks like a little bit higher today. But for the most part, these numbers aren't really fluctuating much lately. And the fact that troop losses have been kind of going down a little bit lately possibly indicate that maybe Russia's not launching as many attacks. We're not really hearing a whole lot about that, but Russia has been launching a lot of aerial attacks recently, just like what we saw happening a couple days ago with that massive missile barrage, mainly targeting the Kyiv region. We had, I think, over 10 people that were killed and definitely over 70 wounded in those attacks. So it was a very barbaric and horrible attack that took place a few days ago. So just want to give you guys some updates on what's coming out from this war today. So again, today's date's April 26, 2025 on Saturday. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Just a quick reminder as well, I will not be here tomorrow. Tomorrow is my allocated day off each week. I am not here on Sundays, but I will be back here following on Monday to give you guys more news. And I'll try to pump out some more news today, give you guys more updates on some situations going around the world and also here with this war between Ukraine and Russia. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for this update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.